Hello, Whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. They woke me in the middle of the night. Nobody does that unless it's serious. I was in my chair in the study, glass of Chianti half gone, listening to the rain tick against the windows. 40 years I've run this family, and I don't scare easy. But the look on Vinny's face when he came through the door, pale as paper, eyes wide like a kid, I knew this wasn't just another street scuffle. "There's trouble on Mulberry, boss," he said. "Bar's gone quiet. Boys ain't answering the phone. Neighbors called, said there's people fighting in the street. Biting." "Biting?" I repeated. I almost laughed. Junkies, always junkies, or some punks trying to send a message. Either way, Mulberry was my street, and nothing happens on my street without my permission. I sent 3 men down, reliable ones. They didn't come back. The 4th stumbled in 20 minutes later, shirt torn, blood dripping down his chest, muttering nonsense about Joey, about Nico. His words were slurred, broken, like his tongue wasn't working right. I stood, put my cigar out, and told the room to quiet. "Show some respect," I said, walking toward the poor bastard. He looked at me like I was God himself, eyes begging me for something I couldn't give. Then he lunged. It wasn't a stumble. It wasn't drunk. It was an animal move. His jaw unhinged wider than it should have, teeth snapping. My nephew Carlo shoved me back just as the thing clamped down on his shoulder. The scream he let out, I'll hear it in my sleep until the day I die. The room erupted. Guns came out, men shouting, furniture crashing. It took 6 rounds before the body stopped thrashing, and even then it twitched on the carpet like it didn't want to stay dead. Blood sprayed across my rug, thick and dark, soaking into the patterns from Sicily my father paid for. Carlo was on the floor, clutching his wound, screaming that he was burning up, that it felt like fire crawling under his skin. His wife Maria was shrieking, clawing to get to him. My men held her back. I had to make the call. I've ordered hits on judges, rivals, even a priest once, never on my own blood. But Carlo's eyes had already turned cloudy, white like milk. His skin grayed while I watched. I put my hand on the back of his head, kissed his hair once, and gave the nod. The shot echoed through the house. Maria collapsed. The men crossed themselves. And me? I poured another glass of Chianti with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking. Family first, always. But what do you do when family comes back wrong? I didn't sleep after Carlo. None of us did. The boys cleaned the rug, though the stain's still there, dark as wine. Every time I pass it, I see my nephew's face before I gave the nod. At dawn, I had them bolt the gates and stack crates against the doors. "No one in, no one out," I said. "That's how you survive wars. You close ranks." I've done it 100 times. Cops on the payroll, feds sniffing around, rival crews trying to take a slice. You close ranks, keep it in the family. But this wasn't the law or another family. These things didn't bargain. They didn't fear. By mid-morning, the compound felt like a fortress. Men on the roof with rifles, cars blocking the driveway, kitchen full of food. We were stocked for weeks if we had to be. I thought we could hold. Then Nico started sweating. He was one of my oldest soldiers, been with me since the docks. Big man, always steady, never raised his voice. Now he sat in the corner of the dining room, rocking like a child, whispering about Joey biting him on mulberry. He tried to hide the wound, but the fever gave him away. The captains argued. Rocco wanted him out immediately, put a bullet in him before he turned. Tony said no, he was family, he deserved a chance. They shouted across my table like children. Enough, I roared. The room froze. We keep him in the basement. If he makes it through, God willing, he comes back up. If not, I didn't finish. I didn't have to. We carried Nico down ourselves, locked the door. The sound of the bolt sliding home felt like betrayal. By afternoon, the groans started. At first, it was just one voice, then two, then a pounding that shook the wine racks. The men whispered prayers. I took 6 of them with me and went down. Shotguns, pistols, blades. We opened the basement door. The air was thick with rot and copper. Barrels of Chianti smashed. Blood mingled with the wine on the floor. Nico was there. Or what was left of him. And 3 more of my men, all torn apart, all twitching back to life. One of them, Marco, still wore his gold chain, his jaw hanging by a strip of muscle. He snarled like a dog and rushed us. We fired. The blast echoed like thunder, the chandelier upstairs swaying from the force. Marco's head burst like fruit. The others kept coming, crawling over broken glass, hands grasping, teeth snapping. One clamped onto a soldier's leg and ripped a chunk clean off before I could put it down myself. By the time it was over, the basement was painted red, and 3 more of my boys were gone. I stood in the doorway, listening to the echoes, smelling blood and wine and smoke, and for the first time in my life I felt something I never let myself feel. Not rage, not sorrow, fear. And outside the compound walls I could hear more of them coming. Every groan outside, every rattle of the gates. It was tightening around my men. Fear spreads faster than bullets. I knew if we stayed boxed in, they'd eat each other alive before the monsters even broke through. So I made the call. We'd take the convoy, black SUVs, steel plates welded to the doors, trunks stuffed with ammo. If Mulberry was gone, maybe Uptown still stood. Maybe the governor's mansion. Maybe somewhere. Lock and load, I told them. My voice came out steady, even though my hands shook lighting a cigar. A boss doesn't show fear. A boss leads. The gates creaked open. The first SUV roared down the street, tires chewing broken glass. I rode in the lead car, leather seats sticking to my back, shotgun across my lap. We rolled in formation like the old funeral parades, except this one was for the living. The city was fire. Cars burned at intersections. Sirens wailed, then cut short with screams. Bodies littered the sidewalks, some still moving, twitching like insects flipped on their backs. And then the horde came. They spilled from a subway entrance, a tide of them, hundreds, maybe more. Suits, rags, cops in torn uniforms, their mouths gnashing, eyes blind with hunger. They surged toward us like we were meat left out in the sun. "Punch it," I barked. Engines screamed. The SUVs plowed into the mass, bones snapping under tires, skulls bouncing off hoods. But they kept coming, climbing onto the cars, pounding the glass with broken hands. One of the side mirrors snapped off, dragging a screamer clinging to it. The rear car flipped. I saw it in the mirror, too many of them swarming, rocking it until it went sideways, rolling across the pavement. The screams of my men cut off under the weight of bodies. Gunfire stuttered, then silence. "Keep moving," I shouted even as my chest clenched. We turned onto Canal, but it was worse. Rivals, the DeLucas, had set up a roadblock, thinking they'd catch us in retreat. They had rifles, Molotovs. They lit up the street, thinking they were kings. The horde fell on them first. I watched from the SUV as their men screamed, rifles spitting into the mass until the wall of corpses bowled them over. Limbs tore. Fire spread. Their screams joined the chorus. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a war we could win. Rivals, cops, junkies, none of it mattered anymore. The city didn't belong to me or anyone. It belonged to them. The SUV jolted as one of the things smashed through the windshield. Glass rained across my lap. Its face was gone, half bone, half teeth, but it still shrieked, clawing for me. I shoved the barrel of my shotgun under its jaw and pulled the trigger. Its head painted the inside of the windshield, blood misting over my cigar. "Boss, what do we do?" the driver screamed. For the first time in my life, I didn't have an answer. We limped the convoy into the warehouse district. By then, half the cars were gone, flipped, burning, swarmed. My mansion was behind us, Mulberry a graveyard. All I had left were 3 cars of soldiers, maybe a dozen men, and the weight of 40 years pressing down on my shoulders. The warehouse smelled of dust, oil, and old gunpowder. Racks of crates stretched into the dark. We stacked them into barricades, strung chains across the doors, poured liquor into bottles for firebombs. It wasn't a fortress, but it was all we had left. I gathered them around a long wooden table. The boys looked hollow, eyes sunken, hands trembling as they cleaned their weapons. I poured whiskey into glasses, set one in front of each of them. "To family," I said. My voice cracked, but I forced it steady. "We fought cops, feds, rats, rivals. This is no different. We fight, we bleed, we win. Family first, always." They raised their glasses, but the clink sounded like a funeral bell. That's when Rocco staggered. He dropped his glass, clutching his side. His shirt was wet, the stain spreading. He'd been hiding it since Canal Street. The room froze. "You son of a bitch," Tony spat, reaching for his gun. "Put it down," I snapped, but my words didn't carry like they used to. The men were tired, scared, desperate. They turned on each other faster than I could stop it. Rocco swore he was fine. Tony shouted he wasn't. Then steel flashed and the first bullet went off. The warehouse erupted, shouting, gunfire, glass shattering. In the chaos, Rocco convulsed, his body twisted, teeth snapping, eyes bleaching white. He pounced on Tony, tearing his throat out in a spray that painted the crates. The rest opened fire. Bullets ripped through men and monster alike. Flames licked up the wooden racks as a Molotov toppled, igniting liquor-soaked crates. I fired until the shotgun clicked dry. Then I grabbed a Tommy gun from a crate and sprayed the shadows, my cigar clenched between my teeth, smoke and ash mixing with gunpowder. My family, my soldiers, my brothers, screamed and fell around me, eaten alive or cut down by friendly fire. By the time the gunfire stopped, the warehouse was an inferno. The few who still breathed lay bleeding, too far gone. I staggered to the door, heat searing my back, the roar of the dead growing louder outside. I looked once more at the men who gave me their lives, burned, broken, torn apart, family reduced to ash and bone. I walked out alone. Behind me, the warehouse collapsed, sparks raining into the night. Ahead, the city moaned, a sea of the dead waiting to swallow me too. For the first time in my life, I had no soldiers, no empire, no family. Only fear.